We'd like to, in the native tradition, have an honor song, a drum song. We always try and bring the drum to every one of our gatherings. We have Kick Hall here to do an opening traditional song. Kick.
Come up there, just right here.
Just right there.
Okay, here. Also, you may follow along with my brother Ezra Sipes too. I just found the song just a minute ago, so.
Thank you. Kick is actually working at that building over there, the prison. He does cultural work there and drumming work with the inmates there. So thank you, Kick, for helping out those in trouble over there. So I want to thank everybody for coming here today on this very special day, the special year for Nk'mip Vineyards, which was our first business that was started back in 1968. And Sam will tell the details of that and go through some of the history of that. The vineyard has always been 100% owned by the Osuyus Indian Band, and has always been one of the largest employers of our people. Not just from Osuyus, but so many of our people from all the Okanagan bands have worked here. When I grew up in the 70s, I remember all of the youth, this was their first summer job for most of us. The first paycheck we ever got was from this vineyard. And back then, we used to, as kids, we used to have to start at 5 in the morning, get up at 4 in the morning for July and August, come out here, be out here at 5 in the morning, and get off at 1 in the afternoon. That was our summer student hours here. And I also remember during some of those years, they actually had acres and acres of tomatoes,
Yep.
and cucumbers or
Cucumbers.
corn. And rocks, a lot of rocks. That's true. Most of the students, part of our job was to pick rocks. Yeah, we were good rock pickers back then. So I want to really thank all of those that helped get this project together. Of course, Indian Affairs provided some of the funding during those early years. And this place has meant so much to so many of our people, and we're very proud to be involved in the wine industry, and we've created so many lifelong friends from the wine industry. And some of our people, like Justin Hall over there and Sam Baptiste, and Tom Alex actually left the rest to go to school to work in the wine industry, and we're so proud of them and all of the people, and I'll mention some of them, and I'm sure Sam will mention some of them that have worked here and been here for 40 years or more. And it's so great to see that so many of the people that run vineyards, that work in the wine industry are here today, and our partners, that we've been able to become one of the best wineries in Canada. Nk'mip Cellars, of course, is also well known throughout the country. So I'll pass it over to Sam to go over some of the history of Nk'mip Vineyards.
Thanks, Clarence. Yeah, I too worked here in '68 when I was going to high school, and did everything, picked rocks, and even during my spring breaks I was taught how to prune. And in the summers I stretched wire, did anchors, pounded posts with Uncle Albert Louis, who just left because he wasn't feeling very good. But looking back, we have to say, did we achieve the dreams and the goals of our founding fathers? And is Jane here? Jane and Jim Stelkaya. Jimmy was the chief then, and Jane Stelkaya, and I think Louis, Jim Baptiste, they were on council during those years. But I think we did achieve what they set out to do. And the team that we've worked with over the years, my predecessors, Ted Brower, who was here from day one till '85, and after that Ken Visser, who was there from '85 to '91, and myself. I think we've done what we set out to do, and the team should be really proud of what we've achieved. It's good to see some of the faces here that I've been working with over the years. John Bilboy, who was our grape specialist for forever. And Richard Cleve, who's here, he's my counterpart. He did it on the other side of the river and on this side. No, he's well known, and I've learned from him. Yeah, he's a good person to network with, and it's just been, it's been a lot of fun, and it's a lot of ups and downs with just the character of our industry. It's like we're gamblers. I don't go to Vegas, but we got to be the biggest gamblers in the world, Dick. Like, I mean, right from the winter, you're hoping that it doesn't get too cold, and at the same time, you're thinking, geez, I got ice wine out there. It better get cold. And then you go along and you got the spring frost. You hope like hell the shoots don't come out until then. And if you get a spring frost, the shoots are usually about that high, and then we have a few frost pockets here, as you can see. And they just turn black and die, and then you have to wait for the secondary. Then the spring rains, you hope that it doesn't rain during bloom. It just goes on and on. The summer heats, the smoke, the fires. It's just, why are we here? And in the fall, you're hoping that it doesn't freeze early.
The end results.
Anyway, I'd like to, because I left to go to school several times, and I missed out on a lot of things that happened in the industry. But John Bilboy, he didn't. He's been here for 100% of the time. And I'd like to call him up to say a few words. Because Nk'mip, I don't know, it's because we're so large, the province, under the direction of John Bilboy, had an experimental plot here, or test plot, whatever you want to call it. And John planted almost every variety in the world there. I mean, there are varieties there that I couldn't pronounce. But John, could you come up and just give a brief...
Oh, I brought some notes here.
Okay.
Your mic isn't working, Sam.
No?
Still hear you.
Does this work?
Yeah.
You just got to talk close to the mic.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. It's been my privilege to have been associated with this particular project since about 1968, off and on. And I've seen this vineyard grow, and I've seen it change. And coming back today after 12 or 13 years of not being here, it's really changed. But I thought I'd tell you about the experimental planting that we had here in Block M up on the hillside there. Probably one of the best sites in the vineyard, other than the ones where the Rieslings used to be. We grew varieties from Europe, so we had Vitis vinifera varieties. We had hybrids, and back in those days, hybrids were the variety to grow, and we were just moving away from them in the late 70s, early 80s. And in the early 80s, the Becker project started, which was a project evaluating German varieties. By then, Nk'mip had already planted some German varieties. And then we grew what they call labruscas, so we were interested also in table grapes, and they came from the US and Canada. We had 2 acres of test varieties, and Nk'mip provided the land free of charge, posts and wires, cultivated and sprayed, and we pruned and evaluated and kept records. And the first year that there was wine to be made, Andre's Wines took on the job of making wine, but I don't think they realized how many varieties there were, and so the winery was a little bit overwhelmed. They made wine that first year, but that was it. So after that, it was the research station at Summerland that took on the responsibility of making test wines. And those wines were evaluated, and from that we developed a list of varieties that were suitable for this area based on the test plantings. And they included varieties that are now still in the industry: Cabernet Franc and Gamay Beaujolais and Merlot. There was Thompson Seedless that came through that, Cabernet Sauvignon, Chenin Blanc, Semillon, Grey Riesling, Malbec, Chardonnay, and a variety called Reifensteiner that's grown at the coast now. And then we added varieties like Gewürztraminer and Gudedel, Kerner, Müller-Thurgau, which is planted here now, and Siegerrebe, and Riesling Moselle. Some of those varieties are still in the industry, some are not. For table grapes, we had Fiesta and Perlet, a variety called Festivie and Century One and others, as well as Concord and Fredonia and Venus. None of those varieties are really important today. And for the hybrids, we had 22 different varieties, including many from the Summerland Research Station from their breeding program. And of those, none are in the industry today. So Nk'mip Vineyards provided the industry with that evaluation, 126 varieties in total. When we looked at the 1984 project that the ministry had, we developed a grape atlas. And that atlas took into account the length of the growing season, the amount of heat, the frost season, and soils, and combined those into which parcels of land were most suited for growing grapes in the Okanagan-Similkameen area. This site was a #1 site, so it was a site that had long growing degree days. It had more than 1,390 growing degree days. It had less than a 10% chance of frost risk in general, except for your frost pockets. It was most suitable with solar radiation, in other words, sunshine, and the soils were also rated as best suited. So it had a really good classification for that, and that was proven out by the varieties that could be grown here. The climate records over that 11-year period were taken from a weather station that was in the vineyard, and it averaged 197 days without frost, 1,364 growing degree days, just slightly less than the class 1. The lowest temperature recorded during that time was minus 22.5, and the warmest was plus 40. And that's for the period from 1974 to 1986. So it has a good history, and that particular project allowed us to expand the industry into areas where we normally wouldn't. But we used varieties from your farm as well for the Lillooet project. And so in Lillooet we had a test planting later, and your Riesling was planted there, and that's now the base for a winery that is there, and they do very well with Riesling, not the one from here, but it showed that it could be grown. The other one we took over there was Chancellor. Now Chancellor didn't go anywhere.
Still here.
It's still here. But anyway, during those years, I met some wonderful people, and some very impressive things that I can remember. You had a lady here, Mary, and she could weld like you couldn't believe. She also, in those days, the irrigation lines were on top of the post, and they were made of aluminum, and they vibrated in the wind like you wouldn't believe. And they wore holes into the pipes, and they needed fixing. She was a lady that could do that. And she was also supervising the crews.
Yeah.
And so there's some very good memories that I have of being in this vineyard, and I would bring European visitors, either family or research scientists, to your farm. And I remember my niece one day, actually a cousin, doesn't matter, she's relative. She's a teacher, and she comes over and she says, I would really like to meet, and in those days we didn't mind calling people Indian. And she said, I'd really like to meet an Indian. So we drove down to Nk'mip. And here's Fred standing outside. I said, Fred, this is my niece. She's a teacher in Holland. She would really like to meet an Indian. He puts his arm around her, gives her a big squeeze, says, I'm an Indian. So there's some other research scientists from France and other places that came here and just had their complete image of what Native people can do turned around by what they saw. And so I was really pleased with that. And I'm sure you are too. Thank you for your time.
I guess I'll continue along, Clarence.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've gone away and come back several times, but I'm just going to give you a quick, that 77 planting that John was talking about, the German vinifera, we planted it in 77. And I think 77, 78 was that coldest winter that John was talking about, minus 22. I think the wind chill was minus 29. Even though those grapes are planted on a frost-free site, we lost over 50% of those vines. So we had to interplant those 2 years later. But that's kind of Murphy's Law, or rub of the green. And it didn't only happen then, it happened later on where we took a chance and we planted Merlot where our hayfield was. And guess what? Another cold winter. Almost totaled it. But anyway, fast forward, we get to 1987, 88, and the government and a lot of the stakeholders, a lot of the growers wanted to improve the quality of our industry. Because when I came back, this vineyard was all French hybrid except for the German vinifera that we had. So Brian Brian Mulroney and his free trade agreement, it kind of wakened the growers up, and we thought, okay, now if we have to compete with our neighbors to the south, we better pick up our game. So at that time, the government sponsored a pullout program, and where the growers were actually paid to pull out their French hybrids and still keep the land. And we were offered the same thing, but we chose to put that money back into the vineyard and start replanting European Vitis vinifera right away. Like in 1991, we undertook huge plantings of Chardonnay, Pinot Blanc, Pinot Noir. So that was a good thing for our industry. I think it was a turning point where everybody thought, okay, we'll have to compete with our neighbors to the south, so let's get going, and we did. And the industry has grown exponentially. Like every 5 years, it doubles, triples, and now when you drive from all over to the U.S. border, there are hardly any tree fruits. It's all grapes. Most of it is grapes. And we've upped our game. We've certainly learned from our neighbors to the south and from France. I mean, they've been doing this for 500 years, and we didn't have 500 years, so we have to learn a lot quicker. And so that really upped the quality of the wine too, because I don't know if you guys remember Love a Duck, Baby Duck, Gray Duck. That was what these French hybrids produced, and smoke meat, white and red. And they weren't very conducive to elevating your wine experience. But, and then, you know, with the Cabs and the Merlots and the Chardonnays and the Pinot Blancs, it was a much better experience. And then we even kept going further after that, and we kind of went out of our box, I guess, and we started getting brave, and we planted Malbec, Petit Verdot, Tempranillo, which is a Spanish variety. Malbec is known as an Argentinian variety. And Sauvignon Blanc, which is considered New Zealand. Yeah, so it's been great just watching the industry evolve. And certainly the wines can show you that. We have really excellent wines here from a number of producers. La Stella, La Vieux Pen, Sevi, Nk'mip Cellars, Justin Hall. We got Geringer's here. We got Summerhill here. I've been dealing with Summerhill and Geringer's for probably 30 years or more, since the early 90s. Yeah, that's a long time. But
Board reader on that, Sammy.
hey, so good to see Harry here. Harry was I don't know,
50 years.
yeah, that's why you're the godfather of our industry. And you wear it well, Harry. Thank you. So if anybody wants to come up and say a few words, Richard or Harry, or where's Stephen? Oh. You're more than welcome to. Harry McWaters.
Thanks, Andy. What a great pleasure to
Be here.
and see the development that's gone over the last few. This is intermittent. Anyway, the development that has happened in our industry over the last 50 years is immeasurable. But what has happened here in quality and the versatility
That you've shown over the. That's just going to keep stopping. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So that you know what's happened here over the years is you've responded to the industry's needs. You've been the greatest supplier to the industry over the years, and on behalf of the industry, thank you. And now we can get Dick to come up here because he's really bashful.
Come on, Dick.
You can stay there and speak.
Okay. Well, I've been growing grapes, I guess, 48 years in the valley, which is a long time. It's seen enormous changes, just absolutely enormous. But I think there are some major ones coming down in the future too. They're going to have some serious problems with labor and different things, and wineries now are looking for a lot more land, and there isn't the land available. So my buddy John Vealboy here did a lot of work over in the Lytton Lillooet area. They don't have a great map, which I call my Bible. You too probably, Sam. It's a great map, just an amazing piece of work that I've lived by ever since he did it. And I've recommended a lot of vineyards go into different sites according to the Grape Atlas, and they've pretty much all been successful. So I've loved being in the industry. I've loved, you know, Sam, Clarence, helped him out one time, and Harry, but I'm retired now, so. And I didn't know I'd have to speak. But it's been a great ride and just an absolutely amazing experience. Made a lot of friends, and I've loved what I've done for 48 years. So it's been good.
Let's see if this works. Does it work? Nope.
Sometimes.
Anyway, I want to just mention in 1979 we started talking with a major commercial winery, Bright's. Did Morris Gregor get here?
Yep.
Whoa! And it took a bit of me traveling back and forth to Niagara on the lake, but we finally entered into an agreement with T.G. Brighton Company with Ed Arnold, whom we contacted, and he's
Need a toast.
not feeling that well, so he couldn't make the trip. He was going to come, but he didn't. Anyway, we did that winery through Nk'mip Vineyards because of the fact that they were a legal entity in the laws of BC, and so we had to use them as a vehicle to access funding to build that winery. And initially it was 1 acre, 44,670 square feet or something. And anyway, it was a home of Bright's, and then Bright's sold to Vincor. I think that's when Morris came on board. And Morris was the GM at the winery during my tenure, and he bailed us out a few times, even when he was at Castabello. I remember that because this is what happened. We had 40 tons of Chancellor that got picked, and the winery refused to take it. So I called up Mo and I said, Mo, I got 40 tons of Chancellor sitting here. Can you take it? He said, yep, send it up. So that was great. And I'll always remember that, Morris. Thank you. Bail us out. Yeah, it's been a good partnership. We did that deal, and I don't know if Richard's here, but Richard was one of the first. He was one of the first people hired there, as was Snoopy, Dorothy Louie, Ella Louie, who's gone, and Dorothy. They're both gone. Jane Stelkaya worked there initially with that group. Because John Bremer was there. Is John here? He was the GM there temporarily, and he called me up and he told me what he needed. So basically, he asked me to handpick some people. So I did, because I looked at the parameters that he was looking for, and I got the people, and they were happy. The workers were happy. But I just want to tell you a quick story. Before that winery came to fruition, I was called to a tribal meeting in Penticton. And I was literally drug over the coals because they said, how dare you even think about putting a winery in? And I really got it. And I came home and I crossed the bridge over there. I think it was about 8 o'clock. Ted Brower was still in his office. But as soon as I crossed that bridge, you know what I said? We're going to do it because this is our life. This is what we do. We grow grapes. So added value, you have to, you know, the winery was a win-win. And because they envisioned the tribe lining up every morning with their jug and filling it up. Some of them did. It never happened, but in fact, it had the opposite effect because the people that worked there were so happy with not only their wage, but happy with what they were doing. So they quit drinking. They quit that style of life, I guess you could say, but it worked out to the opposite, and the winery has been a constant employee of our people, and Richard's been there 38 years, and he's retired 3 times, I think. Like my mechanic, he's retired 3 times too. But I would really like to thank that group, Brights, Vincor, Constellation, Arterra, for the role that they have played in improving the lives of the members of this community. And I think we should have a toast for them. Josie, do you have any wise words to say?
Sure, I'll continue.
My name is Josie Tayabji, and I have been working with the Osoyoos Indian Band for probably about 25 years, starting with Don Triggs and Morris here. And I'd like to say that I think that the Osoyoos Indian Band has actually enriched our lives as well. I've made some great friends along the way in terms of some of the things that I've learned from them as well. Hello. So we've worked together on the Nk'mip Cellars joint venture. We've worked on planting vineyards down in the south, and I've worked hand in hand here with Sam and the team here at Nk'mip Vineyards. So I'm happy to have played a role in actually working together with members of the Osoyoos Indian Band, and I hope we can continue to work together for many more years into the future. So cheers to you guys. Good job.
Hey, Stephen Sipes from Summerhill Winery.
Thank you, Sam. Hi, Gene. I'm very proud to be here today. I want to say we've been with Sam and the Nk'mip Vineyards for 30 years, and we got very excited about the growing conditions here in British Columbia. We're in the Pocket Desert, the northernmost desert viticulture region in the world, and we're growing grapes that are absolutely magnificent. We're winning awards around the world, and it's all due to your great vineyard practices and your beautiful location. And I was reading this label that we did in 1991 with the wine we made together. And I thought I'd share it with you because you can see the excitement we had then, 30 years ago. It's so beautiful. Nk'mip Vineyards is proudly operated by the Osoyoos Indian Band, original people of the Okanagan Valley. Located in Western Canada's only true pocket desert, the vineyard's combination of soils and microclimate impart a unique character to the Chardonnay grapes grown here that makes Nordique Chardonnay stand out from all others in the world. Cellared in new French oak, Nordique Chardonnay is rich, mellow, and buttery, with delicate apple vanilla aromas. Pesticide and herbicide free, this natural Chardonnay is a complement to fresh fish, seafoods, cheese, and smoked meats. And at that time, and still today, Sam honors Summerhill with growing our blocks of grapes here with no pesticides and herbicides, and we thank you very much for that, Sam. Congratulations.
Clarence?
Yep.
Oh.
Thank you, Sam. I'm glad that one of the people that has an important history here with the vineyard, and I'm sorry, Jane, for the short notice. Awesome, Jane brought some of her old photo albums here. I was just glancing at them. I know when they last did when they did the opening ceremony here back in '69, I think it was, or '70. Jimmy Stokaya was chief and Jane was on council at the time, so it's only fit in that Jane say a few words. Jane?
Could I have something to drink, like water, not wine?
Is there water? Is there water here?
Water here?
No water?
We'll have somebody get one from the thing over there,
Yeah,
Jane.
it's pretty thirsty.
Yeah, we have water over. Can somebody grab a glass and just go get some over at the office here?
I got it. Gina?
Yeah.
Okay. So while Jane's waiting for her water, I want to thank seen Don Triggs come here. So Don and Morris, could you come up here for a sec?
I'll stand behind Mark.
I know Sam mentioned them from Vincor. Was that you guys? These guys are like divorced women. They keep on changing their name. Was it Vincor first?
No break.
No, it was Brights, and then it was Vincor.
Gotta keep track.
And now it's then Constellation, and now Altera. But one of the things I'm very proud of is back in, I think it was the mid-90s, I remember meeting in that boardroom over there, and Don called it the big idea, and that's when Vincor at the time, like many of the wineries used to contract or just get their grapes from contractors, and of course that's changed now, where most of the major wineries now own vineyards and grow their own grapes. So I remember Don called it the big idea. Would the band be interested in leasing hundreds and hundreds of acres of land? And one of the things we told him at the time, if we're going to do that, then I remember watching some old videos of Ted Brower, and he mentioned one of the goals of this vineyard was to have their own winery. That was back in the 70s. So part of that potential deal or agreement was to say to Vincor, okay, if we're going to do that, then we want to create our own winery as part of the project. So I'm so glad you're able to make it here, Don, and you moved from Hogtown, from the big city in Toronto, and now he's got a vineyard on our land across the valley here.
Doing my best.
So Don and Morris, if you would say a few words.
Oh, I got some. Okay. I always remember coming down here in the early 90s, 93 or 94, I guess, as being amalgamated with Brights, and we had a lot of fun together. Sam was a big help for me, coming in just whistling out of the blue, you know. Big Penticton guy. Run into Jane there in the winery. She was one of the workers there. So the people there were just exceptionally nice people, and I enjoyed every minute of working over there. Till Don came along then. He came in one day and he said, Morris, he says, we need some more grapes. He says, I said, yeah, oh yeah. He says, well, I'd like about 2,000 acres. I said, 2,000 acres. At that time, there might have been 500 acres of grapes in the ground. I said, oh, okay, well, I don't know where we're going to find 2,000 acres. Anyways, Clarence came along, and everybody sort of started getting together, and I don't think we ever got to the 2,000, but we did a pretty good job of it. And building the Nk'mip Winery in Asuyas was a fun project, and it just grew every year. Amazing situation. So enjoyable times, good hard work, and I met a lot of wonderful people. Thank you, and including Don. He was a pretty good boss. He said, just do it. I always remember we started planting grapes at the far end, the south end out there, and that's where we were going to start. And I remember we had to get power out there and pump houses, and so I started dealing with some of these people, and pretty soon we had a power line out there. We were starting to go, but we didn't have any leases or anything at this point in time. I'd say, Don, we've got no lease. And he says, just get the stuff in. He says, you let me worry about that stuff. So we progressed at a high rate of speed.
Well, thanks, Mark. Well, I guess my comments will be really short. First of all, it wasn't a big idea. The big idea was what you guys started 50 years ago. When I think about the vision that it took at that point in time in terms of the development of grape growing in the Okanagan, that was really reaching out there in terms of the future of the valley, of your band and everything else. And looking back at it now, it seems insignificant, but thinking of what you did then, you really did make a difference. And I think everyone here, we can be really proud of what you've accomplished, not only in other things in the valley, but in pioneering the real development of grapes in the industry. So Sam, Clarence, Jane, Tony, what a great legacy to leave the valley and the industry. And other than that, I have to say it was a lot of fun working with you all the way through the process. There was always great respect, a great passion for the right reasons about what you're about and what we were doing. And I think that's, at the end of the day, one of the reasons we had such fun, and it worked out, and we grew grapes. And I think the whole valley learned a lot from what you pioneered here. So to that, we're all thankful. So thank you very much.
So Jane will speak now.
I'm going to start with a band meeting at the old schoolhouse that's way down, I don't know how many miles from here. There was a developer, grape growers from Ontario, was it you guys? And they came to the meeting and they wanted to lease some land and for grapes. And this goes back about 1969, when someone from Ontario wanted to grow grapes. So, and they wanted, so I can't remember how many acres this is now, goes back 50 years ago. Now, we asked them, I asked them, how much an acre? And they said, $5 an acre. And we said, I said, $5 an acre? I said, we could do better ourselves. This is where the idea came from, to be the Indian band do it themselves. So that's how this, not then, but the next year, I wasn't in council then, and that was, Louis was chief, Jim Batiste was councillor, now is councillor. And then the next term, Jimmy, my brother, became chief, and Francis Batiste was councillor, now is councillor. So we decided to start a vineyard. So we had meetings with Indian Affairs, and the one that really took charge to help us was, what's that guy from Vernon?
No, Senator Marchand.
Yes.
Len Marchand.
He came out here, I took him out here, and this was all nothing but rock. I have a few pictures here. If I had been ready, I'd have wrote up my speech. I don't have one.
You got a good speech going, Jane. You're doing good. You're doing good.
Well, and so that was the talk of vineyards, so we took it over, and then we started it through the help of
Len Marchand.
And through Indian Affairs, and so that's how this got started. And there was the elders, I guess, from here, there's a lot of them has passed away, and they did a lot of work here. And I think, when, see, I don't even have it ready. Here. Here's part of it. And here it shows how the land was broken and the big rocks that was here. And when it was planted, there was no water here. And it was like you're talking about, there was no water here. And the plants, I don't know how many acres that went in. That first year was, all had to be watered by hand. Now, this was tough. And some of the ones, I think there's some that's been working here from that day one. Richard was one. Any more?
Fred, but he's not here.
And Richard is still working at the winery right from day one till today. Richard right there. And I also have a video of the people that was working out there. There was right from the start was Freddie Baptiste, and he's not here, but he's at home. He's not too well. And like I said, if I'd have sat down and wrote my speech, I would have named all the ones that had worked here from the very beginning. And they were hard workers. And I think, Sam, where are you? Over here. What was the paying wages back then? Was it $2 an hour?
Students got, when I
Probably
started here,
90
when I started
cents.
here, we got $2 an hour.
9 cents.
75 cents.
Yeah.
10 cents a roll.
Oh, 75 cents a roll.
Because I left here to sit in apples and I was getting paid 90 cents an hour. In
And
60.
the other thing was, Indian Affairs was not sending in the checks or whatever, and I had to come up with that. Remember that, Sam?
Yep.
And that's one of the things I really did because I wanted to have this going, because one of the reasons I thought to have this vineyard was our parents, Sam's parents, and whose parents from this reserve was all working down the States. The wages down there was greater than here. So they're all down there. So I figured, well, we better get this thing going because they can stay home and work. That's what the plan was behind there. But I'm a little bit disturbed in our band members here. They should all be working here. That's the purpose of this vineyard back then. And it's not happening. And Lillian there, she was one of them here that worked hard, and I think she's still here.
She is.
She
Still on
is?
our payrolls.
Oh, well, I'll be. And there's a few here, Gary and Alfred, and I don't know, there's quite a few from where they started. When did you start? You were still here too?
I just know I started when I was 15 and a half.
Oh, okay, there's a few here that stayed with it. And so, I don't want to take too much more time, but I'm glad that they had taken it over and have it running. I don't know who is in charge now here. Is it Shar? Sam. Yeah, I don't know. I just and, oh, okay. There, I can't see them. So. Yeah. And Mary, and there's Mary Louie, and there's Sherry Stelkaya, and there's a bunch of others. They're not here anymore. They retired or whatever they've done. So I guess I'm just wondering if that's the whole story here.
You did good. Close enough.
Okay.
Is our MLA still here? Thank you for coming, Linda. You're always a good supporter for the Sioux Indian Band, past mayor, and our current MLA, Linda Larson.
Thank you. Happy to be here. I'm not supposed to be here. Actually, I'm supposed to be in Victoria, but I snuck out yesterday to make sure I could be here today. So, and I just always feel very grateful to the Sioux Indian Band and everybody who works in all of the endeavors that the Sioux Indian Band has in the Okanagan, that employs so many people, not only for the band, but for all of the rest of us too. So I really appreciate that, and congratulations on 50 years with this vineyard, and now I have to go.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I'd like to recognize our mayor from Osoyoos. Sue, congratulations on your new election. And when we talk about breaking trail or being trailblazers, we can't mention, we have to get Justin Hall off the phone. The world's first First Nation assistant winemaker. And I want to thank Randy. So if Randy and Justin would say a few words.
Come on. He's used to TV.
It really was making wine. I'm not kidding.
Justin is one of, I always mention Justin is one of our success stories. Like me, he barely made it out of high school. In fact, I think he dropped out of high school
4 or 5 times.
And his dad had the same rule my mom had. Go to school, get a job, or get out. So ever since he quit school, he started, like most of our people back then, even the people who went to residential school, when they quit school, because they didn't like the school, they went to work right away and became damn good hard workers. So the Sioux Indian Band has a history of producing some of the hardest workers in Indian country, and I always mention Justin as an example with the help of Randy to mentor him, and he became the world's, not just Canada's, but the world's first First Nation winemaker. That's huge in our eyes.
Well, I'm Randy Picton, for those of you who don't know me, but otherwise known as the Burr under Shar and Sam Saddle, I guess. Probably been that way for 16 years, I guess, now that I've been involved with this Nk'mip Cellars right from the beginning, and of course working with Don the early days in the setup, and Sam and Shar and Mary back in the day in the vineyards. And I'd have to say it's been a real privilege to be involved with these people. I know we've had our ups and downs throughout the years, but I have a lot of respect for everything that's been accomplished in this vineyards, and to be a part of Nk'mip Cellars and being able to sort of, I guess, bring the profile of the Sioux Indian Band out into the public, into the world, has been a real privilege, and I don't take that lightly, and I really enjoy the people, and I appreciate the opportunity that's been given to me, and also to work with this guy who is like another son or a best friend. I couldn't be happier and more pleased with his progress and where he is, and he's just as good a winemaker he is, he's a better man, and I'm just privileged to work with him. So. Justin, clean the tank. Justin, go get my samples. Justin, stay late. He's buttering me up for next year, I know.
Yeah, I've been with the winery for 15 years, so I started fairly young. Sam was already graduated and making kids by that time. 10 of them. Yeah, I don't know where I'd be today without, I guess, the generation before me starting this vineyard, and Don and everybody, Sam's father being in the wine industry or the grape growing industry, and all of my elders and a lot of my family. My grandmother grew up here, growing grapes. It was hard work back then, but it was a job, and it's a lot harder than a lot of our younger generation could do now. That's why I make wine. Leave out the hard work to Sammy. And I don't know where I'd be, so I really appreciate it. These guys have done a lot for me, and our whole industry. It's made it a lot easier. I don't have to quite push so hard because all the hard work was done before I was ever born. So, yeah, that's it.
Walter, are you gonna say a few words?
Sure, yeah.
Walter Geringer from Geringer Brothers.
Well, it's really a treat to be among friends and people who have all contributed and hear the stories that we've had. I can share one thing. It was sort of a bit of a stretch as well for me out of high school to say, I really think I might be interested in the wine industry. Talked to a few people, got a little bit of encouragement. Went to Germany, spent a year there, and then came back and talked to the growers, wineries, Andres, John Bremer and that, and got some good understanding of what knowledge was lacking here in the valley, and from a growing point of view, what the challenges were. And that somehow was very interesting for me to say, there's a lot of developmental work that's required here, and got a lot of encouragement from both the growers as well as the wineries that were here at the time to go back and get some education. And we always were at the beginning there of the argument of the vinifera versus the hybrid, and we should be growing viniferas, and that's the future of the industry. But Ted Brower was listening a fair bit to that, and then while I was in school over there, I get this phone call. It was October, and Ted says, we finally got some funding. And I'm going, what's that mean? He says, we'd like to plant 100 acres of vinifera next spring. And I'm going, wow, that's a revelation in itself. That was unbelievable. That's sort of tipping of the scales. The challenge being it was October, and we all know in the industry now you sort of order plants a year in advance, and you don't order them in the fall ready for spring planting. And so there's a bit of scrambling that took place, but that was really encouraging. And at the beginning, after my second year, I spent some time working here at the vineyard to get an understanding also of what a place, and somehow this place does sort of have an aura, and it tends to just make our vines feel good, but it makes the people I think working here also feel good. It's a pleasure just to be in this type of a location. So I just wanted to say it was a real great experience, and I really appreciate what everybody's done working with Sam, exchanging the knowledge. It's a continual process of observation and being able to grow and learn and improve as we're going along. So those things are all really, really important. So that's all I'd like to say. I'd like to just wish everybody all the best in going forward. If this was what was happening in the short time that our industry is working, what's going to happen in the same stretch of time going forward? So there's only good times to be looked forward to. And maybe one little bit of damper on the whole thing to add to it is that I think a lot of our success in the industry has to be related to whether it is global warming, but we are warming up, whether we're going just as the natural cycle that we've observed between ice age and being warm. That has helped immensely to move our industry to the point where we are today. And sometimes you think how quickly that has accelerated things. What is that going to do in the next stretch of time? As far as is it going to be a positive, or is it going to be other challenges that are going to be thrown at us? But at any rate, that's always something that be kept in the back of my mind. It's not that we as winemakers and have got it all figured out. I think the quality comes from the terroir and from the vineyard, and the climate change has really allowed us to put a lot of finesse into our wines. So we thank that development as well. So thank you.
Jane?
Before the vineyard started here, before we had this going, there was another vineyard in Osiris. The first one, I didn't know who that belonged to. This is the second one.
Yeah, it was Pacific, Monashee, and Shannon.
So Sam's now going to thank some of the vineyard staff that are here today.
Yeah, like I said earlier, did we accomplish what our leaders in '68 wanted to achieve with the beginning of this vineyard in its initial stages, 60 acres? And it takes a team, and we've had good team, we've had changing of the guard, but for the most part, our team has remained the same. And I wish Fred and Mary were here because they've been here for 40 plus years. Lillian has been here for 40 plus years. She's 87 and she still comes to work every year. She says, "Are you retiring me?" And I says, "If you want to work, you know where to go, you know what to do." But I think we've done our part. We've done what our leaders back in '68 wanted to achieve with this piece of land. But like I said, it takes a team, and I'd like to thank Alfred and Gary here, Alice, for their longevity, and Alice is one of the smoothest operators I've seen, and she's Gary's wife. And Richard, way back in the day, he used to run the hardest piece of equipment to run. It was a tiller. Now we call it a weed badger. It's a little more refined. But I remember those days, Richard, because when you weren't there, I used to try it, and it was one hell of a machine to run. Like, it wasn't easy.
That's where all the posts went.
That's where all the... And a lot of people aren't here, but like I said, Fred and Mary, they're not married, had just broken her leg, so, and they wanted to be here. And where's Raj? Raj has been with us since the early 90s too. I think he's the longest.
88.
88? Wow. Yeah, this was his first job. There's a few. Swarnji Chahal came right behind Raj, but he went on to do his own vineyard and like that. But I'd like to thank our whole team. Is Willie here?
You was.
And our mechanic, Jerry Casimir, he's from Vanderhoop. So like Clarence said earlier, we don't only employ natives from here, we go, and we've had them here from southern Alberta, central Alberta, Hobbema country, and coast, everywhere. But like I said, it takes a team, and we've had a good team for as long as I've been here. There's some people come and go, but that's what I like about this operation is everybody gets a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth chance. You know, if you mess up early in the year, well, next year you have another shot at it. A lot of people don't let you back. But because, like I said, have we achieved what our leaders back then wanted to achieve? And I think we have. And that's one of the principles that we have to keep carrying on is giving people those chances, because that's the nature of the beast, and we're willing to bring as many band members here as we can, because we're a small community and everybody knows everybody intimately, and you know what unemployment means, and it's not fun. So we try and keep our people employed as well as their significant others and all their families, but it's been a melting pot of First Nations, because we have a lot of different nations here, and if they want to work, they're more than welcome. Anyway, with that, I'd like to just say thanks for coming, I don't think I'll be here for the next 50th, but it's been fun.
Thank you, Sam, and on behalf of the Sioux Indian Band, I want to thank you for being our first Sioux Indian Band manager here. You've been here a long time, so lim lim in our language for carrying on the hard work and the work that Jane and others started here. I'd like to also recognize Char Baptiste over there, the assistant GM here, and she's been here a long time. Her brother Glenn as well. The vineyard bookkeeper here, Sherry. Thank you, Sherry. Gloria as well. Where's Gloria? One of the hardest workers again, Gloria. And I use her as an example. She had an accident and she had the loss of one of her arms. Gloria is, with one arm, can outwork most res boys. She can. And so, and of course, Gary and Alfred, who've been here since they were teenagers and 40 plus years on the tractor, and so many of our people have retired here. They started work here and retired here. And again, I want to thank everybody for coming here. I'll ask our COO, Myra Baptiste, who was instrumental in organizing this, to close it off with those that helped organize the event here. So Myra, you want to come on up? But before she does that, I'll recognize the council, the Sioux Indian Band council that's here. Tony Baptiste over here, Veronica McGinnis over there, Teresa Gabriel, Sammy Louie. Did I cover everybody?
I better say a few words too.
Okay, Tony?
Hey, because it's a 50th celebration for this guy and the work he's done, I just want to expand on the story that he told. In our culture, you don't ever disrespect elders. Elders carry the main voice. And back then, he went to the meeting, and the elders, led by Louise Gabriel, my wife's grandma.
My ex-in-law too.
Yeah. Gathered a group of elders and went to that meeting and told Sam there's no way that you're going to start a winery to promote alcoholism. She started the first group in Penticton, Alcoholics Anonymous group, and she sat there by herself for many years until people joined her. But that was a huge thing for Sam when they said, you can't do that. He came home and he said, told Tom, he said, we're going to do this. And he did it.
Did.
Thank
Did.
you. Tom and Harry were on council and he said, we're going to do it anyway. And they did. So one of our cornerstones of our whole band. So thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And like Josie, I'm over 50 and and my memory sucks sometimes. I'm always messing up. So Leona Baptiste, who's also on council, Leona, I know she was here. I don't know if she's still here right now, but pardon me?
She went back.
She left.
Oh, okay. So thank you, Leona, and all members of the Sioux Indian Band Council. Myra?
Thanks everyone for coming today. In addition to the industry partners, our band members, our chief and council, and some of the elected leadership that are here today, I did want to send a special thank you to Cassandra and her team from Nk'mip Cellars who are helping us pour the wine today, to the wineries that brought wine today for us to share, to Spirit Ridge and Vintage Hospitality for doing the catering today, and then to Indigenous Works, to Will and Catherine for organizing the event. We thank you, Lim. And before we close, I just want to let you know, in addition to some of the memorabilia we have here, in the lunchroom at the Vineyard, they also have some old photos. So we hope you will enjoy the food, taste some wine, have some time to mingle, and I'd like to get to meet you guys in person.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
guest book here. So we'd love it if you guys could sign the guest book and we'll continue on 50 years later. Thank you.